Switched on IT is proudly brought to you by Oz Hosting, Cloud Made Easy.
Welcome to Switched on IT. This is Barry. This is the show where we talk about everything IT. During this COVID-19 pandemic, lots of people have been doing very interesting things with meeting together online in programs like Zoom and some of those programs. Indeed, we did a virtual program recently for the Lions Club here where the entire Lions AGM was online with Zoom. Now, the topic that Doug and Ray, who are standing by at the moment, are going to discuss today is the use of paid events. So using programs like Zoom and things like that, but charging people to attend those events and the kinds of programs that you can use for them. Who's doing what in the space? Doug and Ray are with us now. Welcome, Ray. Sydney Smith from the United States.
Hi there.
Hi. And welcome, Doug Endersby from Oz Hosting in Sydney.
G'day, Barry.
Ray, what are the sorts of things that people can do in this space?
Yeah, so we can think about this from the general perspective that before the COVID-19 pandemic really took over, the predominant and the majority of online events were done in a marketing perspective. And of course, now that more and more people are trying to do digital experiences to replace those in-person paid event experiences, now there is an opportunity here in the virtual space for people to do that. And there are many platforms, which we'll talk about today, that have kind of gone through that process, but you can start to think about all the various ways in which you can come to an event and have a reason to pay. So you can think about social events, events where once upon a time you could go do those events in person. Think speed dating in the single space, business networking events in the digital space as well, where you once would go to maybe a chamber event or some kind of business professional networking event and go pass out business cards to people as you met them. And when those things become less capable of being done safely in person, those things can then, of course, be provided in a virtual environment. And so those are the kinds of events. Of course, there's entertainment, paying to see a show. Actually, tomorrow evening, I paid to see a virtual show that will be happening from my living room couch because I'll be watching it from home. But this stage production is going to be taking place, and I want to see it. We cannot go there in person because they're not letting anyone be seated in the theater, and so we're going to go ahead and watch that from there. Funny enough, side story, the theaters in New York, the Metropolitan Opera, used to do these simulcasts to movie theaters where you could buy a ticket for the Met Opera anywhere in the country with these particular theaters, and you'd sit in the movie theater but watch the production of the Met Opera happening on stage at the Met, but you're just seated in the movie theater. So this is not, necessarily new. You're paying for socializing, you're paying for entertainment, or you're paying for some kind of service. And so those are the kinds of events that are now coming to the virtual space. And I think this is going to open up a huge amount of opportunity. And those who are willing to put on great events and host great events are, of course, going to benefit in this market.
That's a really interesting spin on the way things are going. So, in terms of the platforms that people are using to now take this on. So obviously the New York Met, they've got some pretty solid resources behind them, and they can run a simulcast. But nowadays any individual small business that wants to host an event, there's quite a few options for them to actually manage that. And I think I'm personally familiar with products such as Meetup. But tell us about what are the various options there, and do they all have the ability to charge or not charge, or are they all which ones don't have the ability to charge, and which ones do have the ability to charge. Because I'm familiar with Zoom, for example. I'm on Zoom meetings very, very often, but of course that they're always free, and most of the online events that I would attend are people sort of pushing out invitations. They want my attendance because they want to expose me to what essentially might be marketing information or information that is important for my business, but might relate to a product that they have or relates to a problem that they might be offering a solution for. So I'm used to free. So let's talk about the platforms that can take money off me as well.
Yeah, so I'll start with the platforms that are non-payment taking, and just how people can do this without the platforms that are here. So pre these platforms that we will talk about, you could use Zoom, you could use Microsoft Teams, any platform that really provided you with a link that was not published on the web, you could really use. You just have to take payment in some other way. Send them a PayPal invoice or a PayPal link. You could send them to Eventbrite. You could send them to any number of places. Your website, if you have payment e-commerce functionality on your website, you could go ahead and have people pay for the event, and then upon going through that registration process, then in confirmation email or otherwise, you would then send them a link to that meeting, and in essence, they would be a paid or ticketed registrant for that meeting. So we could do that in the old school perspective. That's totally legit. You could still do that today. Then we kind of take it up a notch. Of course, you talked about Meetup. Meetup is a platform for being able to have people have shared interests meet in person. PayPal has had for many years the capability for you to be able to charge people for membership. That is, you can pay, say, once a month, once a year, or monthly, or once a year, or annually for a membership, and then you can come to events for free. Or you could have a meetup organizer who decides that they would charge for or per event, and therefore you would pay a fee and then attend the event, and they have the ability to do that. And then they had actually kind of leveled up a little bit with their partnership with WePay, and WePay would allow you to be able to pay donations. So you could donate to the organization. You could do little micropayments, so little bits of money throughout the year that you could give to the meetup organizer. And now just recently, WePay has discontinued that function. So Meetup now has gone back to, I believe they use PayPal as their primary payment processor for that. And now people can pay basically that monthly, annual, or per event fee in order to get things into that paid event space. Of course, Meetup has now given you a field for online events. So whereas Meetup used to be about in-person events, different places are in different states of lockdown, and so they now give everyone the function to be able to say this is an online event, and here goes a link to that online event. So that's been really helpful. So if you didn't know that and you have a meetup, you can convert your meetup to a virtual event. Of course, it depends on the meetup. If it's a beer tasting meetup, that might be a little bit more complicated than, say, a social meetup where people are just talking to one another at a cafe, right? So we have that function. Of course, Eventbrite has made a huge change. Eventbrite has gone through a completely revitalized, revamped user experience, both on the event host side, on the organizer side, as well as on the user side. So now when you go to Eventbrite, you're going to see a new event experience when you are creating an event. Of course, you can create free or paid events on the platform. And they've even rolled out a recent upgrade that gives kind of a light email marketing component in the system. So you're able to actually manage email campaigns to people who have registered for prior events, and you can actually upload your own list of people to the platform for being able to engage them in marketing campaigns, presumably about events. But I guess you could use it for anything. But they really have beefed up their email campaign functionality in the platform. But either way, if it's a virtual event, in the Eventbrite experience now, you can say this is an online event, and it gives you a specialty page in which you can actually embed, say that you have a YouTube live stream that you're doing, and that YouTube live stream is the paid event, so people will be watching. You can actually embed a link into the online confirmation registration page. So when people go to that page, if they're a registrant and they've paid, now they will see all that information on that page, and you can have different sections throughout the page with different information and different videos engaging people in the process. So it's a really rich experience for that online event registration side. So they've really beefed up their work there in terms of making a paid event feel more valuable in that sense. And so I've really appreciated the work that Eventbrite has done. Now, we'll make a quick note here, which is that going back to our prior conversation about why you would want to charge for some of these events, I host a monthly roundtable and in person that happens at a local small business development center in the States, and anybody can attend. There's no registration, there's none of that. But once you take it into the virtual space, borders drop away, and now the people who you want to attend can be anyone. So anyone who visits that page can just basically take the link and come in. And so one thing that you could do is charge a nominal fee, just a few dollars, to kind of keep the riffraff out, right? You want to only make people who are serious about attending, and we know that the people who attend the roundtable are willing to pay $3, $4, $5 to come, but probably not some scammer or person who just wants to register so that they can gain access on the list and show up and maybe spam everybody who's in the room, those kinds of things. So putting a payment, even if it's a very low amount, can not only be it's not going to be a huge profit generation, but it can be a barrier to the people who are just registering for the sake of it. As soon as you have to plunk down $1, you have to punch in either your credit card or whatever it might be, the payment processing payment type that you're doing. The moment you have to put money on the line, you are not only verifying identity, right, because of PCI DSS and other platform processing credentialing, but you're also having to give up money. And it's just an easy barrier to entry that helps to filter out potential folks who are just registering for the sake of it. So those people are much more likely to show up when you do charge for an event versus when you hold a free event that might just be marketing. So even in a marketing style event, you could still think about charging for an event, just a very nominal fee, so that the people who are showing up, one, they've already purchased from you. That's a huge barrier, right, that you've overcome. That is really important. That first purchase from a customer leads them down the purchase path of purchasing from you again and again in higher dollar amounts. So we know that psychologically works. So we want people to pay up front some small amount, and then you can still talk to them about marketing and other messages. But now that you already have their credit card information in your system, which is a really actually interesting step forward in all of that. So going from Meetup and Eventbrite, which are kind of say grandmother and grandfather of paid event platforms, right? Then going forward to kind of the new kids on the block, the newest entrants. Go for it, Doug.
Just wanted to ask you a question with the payments. You were mentioning before that people oftentimes will have their own e-commerce set up where they can take either PayPal or credit card payments. Do the platforms themselves give you the opportunity to use their payment platform, their payment gateway, and then take a commission from the inbound payments that your event is receiving, and then provide you, the event originator, with the bulk of the income coming out of that? So essentially the payment gateway takes, I guess you could call it a commission, but the meeting organizer is paid via the payment gateway. Is that on any of the systems, or do you have to use your own payment infrastructure?
Looking for exposure for your next event or function? Take your next community event, training seminar, sports event, official opening, function, concert or exhibition live to the world with PTV Channel O and Power FM's unique live simulcast. We can turn your next local event into a worldwide sensation for a fraction of what you would expect to pay. No matter what the event, PTV Channel O and Power FM can take your message to our audience. Invite the world to your party by phoning 0431 390 920 or email feedback@ptvchannelo.com.
Digital marketing at A1 Supercheap Tyres is paramount. with having local search on board, they're definitely a part of our business. They are like having a marketing team of your own. It's by far the most important thing to this business and surviving and growing.
Power FM is total entertainment. From the morning drive with Fiona and Jeff to the drive home with Jeff Black. On the weekends, catch the Crazy Kevin Show, Dennis Mitchell's Breakfast with the Beatles, the Semi-Pro Sports Show, and Racing Nation with James O'Shea, plus the music you grew up with. Keep your radio dial locked on Toowoomba's Power FM, celebrating 10 years. You'll find us at 88.0 on the FM dial or online at www.powerfmradio.com.au.
Drought, fires and flood have made running a business in regional Australia hard work. Each week on PTV Channel O, On the Spot will bring you a business that's doing it tough out there and share their stories of struggle and success. Find out who's doing what they offer and how they can help you for your next project, adventure, vacation or night out. On the Spot, every Thursday at 7 p.m. on ptvchannelo.com or download the PTV Channel O app and take us with you wherever we go. Discover a whole new world of entertainment at ptvchannelo.com.
Yeah, so in the case of all of the ones that we're talking about, there's some level of commission being taken for the event registration. Specifically, Eventbrite charges at least a standard fee, whether it's, I forget what it is, 20 cents, 30 cents, $1 or something like that per ticket sold. Then they take a percentage of the fee above that. Now, of course, if you are paying them for a service, they take less money, so they just basically want some cut of the overall action. And so all the platforms basically take some percentage in that regard.
Yeah.
And then you're not using your own, which is the argument for, say, using your own payment provider up front and just sharing a Zoom link on the back end, right? Of course, there is the risk then that, if you have me pay through PayPal and then you give me the link, I can go share that with 10 of my friends, right? So those kinds of situations are limited. People are generally not going to do that, but you could have someone do that. That is the risk of that kind of platform style situation. But it's just what you are, what risk tolerance you have related to that circumstance.
Yeah.
Doug, from your experience, just tell us what are the kinds of events that someone like you, for example, would be prepared to pay for?
Generally, it's going to be an information type event. So, for example, it might be a business networking group that has got, a speaker that might be talking on a particular topic that is interesting to us for our business. It could be backup and storage. It could be security. It could be a communication platform, universal communication platforms. Those sorts of things, and they're the sort of things that I actually frequently do sign up for. Mostly, they're not ones that I have to pay to attend. That in my situation would be quite rare. I think we were saying before we sort of went on the air with this that oftentimes the challenge is just finding the time to attend the meetings that are going to be interesting and useful to you. Let alone, actually paying for them. But there's, there are many events, and Ray was talking at the outset about, entertainment. We're in a world at the moment where we can't go down the road and listen to the band in the pub, or, not everywhere you're able to do that, obviously. In lots of places in Australia, you can now do that, but certainly in the States, that comes that doesn't come without certain risks, and so I can see lots of opportunities there. So I was going to say to you, Ray, in terms of the events that people are prepared to pony up some of their hard-earned cash for, what are the ones that are proving popular paid events?
Yeah, I think I noted them before, but the goal, of course, is to figure out what is important to your audience, right? So that would be the kind of statement I would make, which is, what is going to be most important to your audience. Another kind of business model design that you can put out there is, if you are going to do an event where you want people to show up, not just charging money up front, but you can actually then say to folks, hey, if you register for this for, say, $10 US, when you come, you will have $10 in credit to buy and use with us. So whatever money you spent to pay to get into the event, you have that as credits to use during the event for something. There are lots of folks who are doing these kinds of trunk shows, in essence, where they are doing a more bespoke or niche home shopping network style show, where they're showing their products, showing people how the products work and what products they have available to ship. And so they want to, of course, make sure those are buyers. Those are people who actually want to buy from them. And so they charge the fee, and then they just basically turn around and say, okay, well, now you have credit to be able to use for other purchases. So, charging that nominal fee up front is just so that you can create a barrier for that. So I see a lot of people doing that. I see a lot of people creating educational or learning style events, and making sure that those events are done in such a way that people have an opportunity to have a longevity with that particular content. So this happens very frequently in the virtual summit or virtual conference space. I distinguish between the two of those. I tend to see virtual summits as being pre-recorded or pre-recorded with live Q&A, those kinds of events where the speakers are not all there live and the audience is not live synchronously with the event. And then there are virtual conferences, the types of live virtual conferences that I host, where everyone is live for the most part, right? We want everyone to be presenting live. We want all the audience to be there live throughout the day or days of the conference. And those are worth either paying for because people want to network with other folks. They want to exchange conversations and ask questions of the speakers live. And then, of course, subsequent to that, you can charge $0 for the event upfront, but anybody who wants access to the recorded material then can pay for an all-access pass or whatever you might want to call it to be able to get the recordings of those videos subsequent to the event. So you have all kinds of ways in which you can charge for events while still maintaining some level of free for those folks who just are not going to pay for the event in that way. So we have a lot of different opportunities there for paid events. And so I brought up the notion of summits and conferences. I wanted to talk a little bit about Facebook. For those of you who do have Facebook pages, Facebook has recently turned on the functionality, and you should get a notification in your Facebook page that says, would you like to run a Facebook event? And in essence, what it's using is the Facebook Live engine and all of the functions they already have for taking payment from their development of Facebook shops and Instagram shops and so on and so forth. So now they're saying that this is a free platform for a year. So presumably after a year, you're going to have to pay for this platform, but they are giving you the ability to charge for events, virtual events on Facebook pages, and going ahead and charging people to attend those Facebook Live events that you want to. So you can say, I'm probably going to test that out myself, just for the sake of it. Hold a training for Facebook pages, how to develop and grow a Facebook page, and then charge for the attendance for that event. And if one person shows up, if 10 people show up, they're all paying. And they're on the platform in which they're going to be using. So it's kind of an interesting development there on the Facebook side. Same thing with Zoom. We talked about Zoom earlier. Zoom has two main products, Zoom Meeting and Zoom Webinar. Both have the function for being able to force registration. So you can say, if you want to host a meeting where only people who register can attend, you can have people register for an event. Now, of course, that doesn't allow for payment. So Zoom Webinar and Zoom Meeting don't have that. But Zoom at their most recent conference, what they call Zoomtopia, just happened. Zoomtopia just happened, and they announced at Zoomtopia a new platform, a new marketplace called On Zoom. You have to apply and be approved onto the platform, but then you will be able to be in this marketplace of paid events, meaning that your account will be turned on, and then you will, through PayPal as your payment processor, payment gateway, you will be able to charge for those events. But at the same time, Zoom will act as a marketplace, basically a pool of all of the events that are happening, and that centralized calendar people can select from. They did note in the documentation that I've read that you'll be able to select out of that event. So you can say, oh, I don't want to be a part of the marketplace. I do want to charge for events, but I only want to share that event, that paid event, with people in my audience privately. So they give you that flexibility, and for the ability for you to have ongoing events. You can have repeating events. So things like fitness instructors, yogis, and Pilates teachers, and those kinds of things. If you run a cycling studio, you can now charge for these events and then do what Peloton is doing, right? They have a subscription to a live training class, and I'm sure that system cost them lots of money to develop bespoke. Now you can do this all on Zoom, which is the name of the product, On Zoom, in the marketplace. So it's a really, really fundamental change, and you can see that Zoom is playing the market, right? They're paying attention to what's happening, and they're really trying to put in products and features that people need during this time. And I give them great credit to the level of depth and breadth they've given to the product and to their development team in bringing out these completely new platforms to satisfy for our needs during this time. I mean, I used Zoom long before it ever became popular during the pandemic, and I have been, just dramatically pleased with them stepping up to the plate and helping us all really connect and share with each other in ways that we couldn't before virtually. And this kind of leads me to my kind of last point on this, which is that the people who do paid events now, you may go back to doing in-person events subsequent to when all of this is over. I'm just guesstimating here that it'll be the end of next year, right? So say the end of the next year, we're all back to some hopeful form of normative lifestyles, and I can fly over to Australia and give Doug a pat on the back in real life. But when that time comes, those of us who have done well in the virtual event space now have another service line, have another revenue source from being able to do events, not only locally, but internationally now, that we didn't have before. So do not think of this just as a stopgap measure to surviving, but think of this as a potential scalable revenue opportunity subsequent to the pandemic. And I'm fully putting my chips on those folks who understand digital retail experience, who embrace it now during the pandemic, who not only survive, but thrive, and then go back to doing a hybrid after the pandemic. Those who choose to do both a blend of in-person and virtual events subsequent to the pandemic. I'm sure there'll be people who will do so successfully virtually that they won't ever go back to in-person. But those of you who have bricks and mortar, or you enjoy, like I do, I very much enjoy seeing my in-person clients. I love in-person training. I love doing workshops where I can see your eyes and see when you are glossing over and you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I can explain it a little bit better, right? But subsequent to the pandemic, I'm pretty sure a lot of my clients are going to say, you know what, we don't want to pay the travel costs. We don't want to deal with the potential you getting lost on a plane and getting rerouted to another city, and so we have to cancel an event. All those kinds of issues that sometimes happen. To saying, you know what, we could just have you connect and you'll come and join us in augmented reality or virtual reality at some point in the near future, and you'll join us and teach the class remotely. And I'm going to embrace it. You've got to move with the cheese, as Dr. Spencer Johnson talks about. So those of you who do that, who embrace the technology now and figure out how to make it work, I think you're going to be far more resilient in the future because you have flexibility to be able to use either the way you want to.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about what's happened with virtual meetings is that we are now able to bring people into a meeting that we couldn't before. So I mentioned the recent Lions Club AGM. They brought in a guest speaker from New Zealand, and he came in virtually. Now, even after the pandemic, something like a volunteer organisation like Lions couldn't afford to fly somebody in for a conference speaker because they don't have the money to do that. So their keynote speaker they can bring in now from anywhere in the world, even if they are meeting in person. They can still bring someone in virtually.
And, a lot of people who otherwise weren't, I think of if my grandmother was still alive today, she wouldn't have known what video chat was. She wouldn't understand the idea of she would think my brother was in the box if I put the iPad in front of her. She'd be like, "Why is Robert in the box?" But it's been a crash course for all the people on the planet who had no idea how to FaceTime and video chat and Google Duo and Zoom and otherwise. Zoom has become a verb. It's really leveled up everybody's understanding of technology in not everybody's, but a lot more people's experience with that technology, which of course increases the potential audience for people. So I think this is a really great opportunity because it has expanded the audience. It's expanded the number of people who are now online, and it is giving greater access to an audience by virtue of that. People who would have resisted doing virtual events before, now that they've been forced to, they can't sit back and say, "Oh no, I don't know how to do that," because they've been doing it with their grandkids, they've been doing it with their children, they've been doing it with their friends, and so now they're much more likely to go ahead and embrace attending an event and experiencing it in a virtual experience.
When the going gets tough, advertising is a must. Thousands of potential customers make buying decisions every day based on advertising they've seen or heard on radio and television. Are you losing sales because potential customers don't know what you offer? Get your business, product or service in front of thousands of potential customers with a joint advertising package on Power FM and PTV Channel O. Capture a multimedia audience with our affordable radio, TV media advertising package. Stay ahead of the pack by contacting Barry on 0431 390 920 or email feedback@ptvchannelo.com or Jeff at powerfmtoowoomba@gmail.com.
If you've lost your income or had a change of earning capacity through no fault of your own and are struggling with debt that you can no longer handle, you probably feel a bit like this ant. If the struggle is getting you down and you feel overwhelmed, there is an answer. Central Liaison has helped thousands of people break free of the debt struggle by handling their debt for them. Freeze all interest, stop the harassing calls from the bank and start enjoying life again. Call them today on 0409 344 070 for a confidential, obligation-free chat about how Central Liaison can help you take your life back. The number again, 0409 344 070. Call them now.
Have you got a wedding, birthday, corporate event, or even a school disco coming up? Well, make your special occasion memorable. A professional DJ and compere really makes a difference, so go crazy! With Crazy Kevin, International DJ. He's available for all your entertainment needs. Just call 0459 336 832 or email crazykevindj@gmail.com.
Every week on PTV Channel O, we take a frank look at computers, the internet and social media on Switched On IT. Join our international team of experts every Tuesday at 7 p.m. to learn what makes the internet and social media tick and how to keep your business safe online while making the most of this exciting media. Discover a whole new world of entertainment Tuesday night at 7 p.m. on ptvchannelo.com or download the PTV Channel O app.
I wanted to make one note before we close out, which is that we've done episodes in the past where we talked about different platforms and so on and so forth. One of them, most people know I'm a big fan of, is MailerLite, which is the email marketing platform. And they've recently brought onto their platform the ability for you to now handle payment through Stripe. Stripe is a financial services company. And they now have the ability for you to say, have a front end page where you create a landing page that is for a webinar or a virtual conference or whatever it might be, and take payment. So now you're seeing the capabilities of payment being so not trivial, but pretty easy to add into platforms through their APIs, that now even something like MailerLite, I can create a landing page, which is just basically a fancy email sign-up form, and add payment to it, and now have a virtual event. And these platforms that allow you to, Zoom, for example, if I did that in combination with Zoom, right, I create a private Zoom meeting link, and I go ahead and even, I could even go a little bit step further where I force registration, so the people who only I want to be able to attend, or I can turn on the meeting waiting room and only allowing people who I see have paid and have officially registered to join the meeting are allowed into the room. So you can do these kinds of things, and Zoom in its lowest paid form, right, outside of free, its lowest paid form gives you up to 100 people, up to 99 people, plus you as the host, to be in a single meeting. So if you are charging a nominal fee and you have 100 people in the room for an event, that's a pretty good, whatever hour or two for an event that's typical, you're making a good amount of income for an hourly rate. So we can do these kinds of things now, and I think the threshold is so much lower. I think everybody should be considering how virtual events, certainly paid virtual events, as well as free marketing events, can really be made a part of the overarching strategy for getting through this period, but also thinking about how you can change the paradigm fundamentally for yourself and your business and your community through these events subsequent to the pandemic. Doug, do you have any final thoughts that you had? Any final questions?
Look, just one thing that popped into my mind as we were wrapping up here is we haven't even mentioned the platform that, for most of us, started our experience with video conferencing, which is Skype. And, I know Skype has kind of morphed into Teams, and, the guts of the platform is probably now able to be used in that sense. But isn't it interesting that these other video conferencing platforms seem to have taken over and built on the idea and enabled payment gateways and sort of probably more seamless registration processes, and that's how it is in this space. You've got to keep innovating, or they just run past you, don't they?
Absolutely. And I think, Skype is an interesting beast, because a lot of people in the podcasting space use Skype still to this day. I don't understand or know why, but a lot of people do. And, people use it for telephony services. I know you do, use Skype for business, not the consumer side, but use the business version for that. And that's going to obviously be bundled into Microsoft Teams in the near future. And, but at the same time, Skype recently got news of an update, which is that they're going to be, if I understand correctly, in the upcoming Windows 10, they're kind of going to be embedded into the taskbar in some way, shape, or form. I may be getting that wrong, but in essence, they were getting some kind of front-end treatment where Microsoft was going to be putting them into Windows 10 in the home version, I suppose, where it was going to get a little bit more prominence than it normally would, which is a shock considering they were talking about getting rid of Skype in the past 24 months, right? Talking about the deprecation of the product and its segue into Microsoft Teams. And so I feel like Microsoft is playing a little bit of Google here with their chat messaging and video meeting kind of debacle. I keep hoping that Google has a communication strategy with all of their various applications and so on and so forth, but they keep failing to make me understand the strategy. But that being the case, Microsoft is kind of doing that also here with Skype. I mean, really, why even hint at the idea of bringing Skype back in any way, shape, or form, it's just going to create consumer confusion and certainly confusion in the business space because those people who would otherwise immediately make their way over to Zoom, make their way over to Microsoft Teams, is going to think, oh, well, if this is not going to be a sure thing, well, then we'll stay with Skype. And if this is going to continue to keep giving us, like, is it ending or is it not ending? Is it ending? Is it not ending? Then maybe we'll go with a platform which we know is not going to go away and forego anything Microsoft. It really lowers the threshold of trust in the platform. And I really want these major tech companies to kind of get their platform of choice, dig their feet in, make it great, and make it work for us. For Google, if that's Google Meet with a bunch of other tools that they have blended into it over time and embracing RCS across the board, great. For Microsoft, if that's Microsoft Teams, fine, that's great. But do not start trying to push relic software and try and bring it back up from the grave. It's like a zombie product. Don't do that to us. We want clarity in terms of what we're using and direction for being able to work in those platforms and be productive in those platforms. And if it's constantly changing, we're really not able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I think we might leave it there. We've covered that pretty thoroughly, I think. Doug, any final words?
No, just my Skype comment. I think it is interesting the way it's evolved like that. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks, Barry.
Okay, terrific. Ray, any final words?
No, I'm good.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much, Ray Sidney Smith from, where are you, in Pennsylvania today?
I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today.
Right. So thank you for your time from Pennsylvania. And Doug Endersby from Oz Hosting in Sydney, thank you for your time, and we will see you both again next week. This has been another session of Switched on IT. We have had Doug and Ray with us as usual, and today they have been talking about paid events and using platforms like Zoom and so on. Now, if you missed any of this session, don't forget that this will be on video on demand in a day or so. You can go and check back on the session, and of course you can go back and you can look at any of the previous sessions as well. Make sure that you connect with us on email. Our email address is on the screen for you, and also connect with us on social media. We will look forward to seeing you again next week when we have another session of Switch on IT where we talk about everything IT. Until then, take care.